It's right full of considerations that we need to be aware of. I was looking to find the best way to actually present this all to you all, and I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to step through the actual statute itself and point out verbiage that I think is especially important to us all. This is the new changes in the law with respect to storage, okay? A lot of people are characterizing this as a response to incidents that have occurred, such as up at Michigan State. You guys are familiar with the young man. His name was Ethan Crumbly, the person who was recently sentenced, I believe, of just a matter of days ago. He was, yeah, from the Oxford shooting. He was given, if I'm not mistaken, he was given a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. And so a lot of people are characterizing, you know, this safe storage law as a response to that case. And I say, in my personal opinion, I don't think so. In my personal opinion, the legislature passed this law because they always trying to pass laws like this. It's now, after the recent elections we've had, both nationally and here locally in our state, the anti-gun party is actually in charge of the legislature. And for years, they have been wanting to do something draconian with our gun laws. And they had an open opportunity, they seized it, and they did it. And the Safe Storage Protection Act, this is what they actually passed and implemented, and with the other prior two laws we talked about, this goes live on Valentine's Day. So bear with me as I actually step through the actual law as it exists. And it's not unduly long, but there are some things that as gun owners who have firearms that you really are going to need to pay particularly close attention to. And I will make this as painless as possible. Okay. Section 9(1). An individual who stores and leaves a firearm unattended on premises under the individual's control and who knows or reasonably should know that a minor is or is likely to be present on the premises shall do one of the following. One of the following is A, store that firearm in a locked box or container, or B, keep the firearm unloaded and load the firearm in a locking device that is properly engaged, or to render the firearm inoperable by any individual other than the owner or an authorized user. C2. An individual who enters into the premises of another individual, stores or leaves a firearm unattended on the premises, and who knows or reasonably should know that a minor is or is likely to be present on the premises shall do one or more of the following. Store that firearm in a locked box or container. B, keep the firearm unloaded and lock the firearm with a locking device that is properly engaged to render the firearm inoperable by any individual other than the owner or an authorized user. C, before entering onto the premises, do both of the following. And here's the first of that, both of the following. If the individual's motor vehicle, store the firearm in a locked box or container in that vehicle, or keep that firearm unloaded and lock the firearm with a locking device that is properly engaged to render the firearm inoperable by any individual other than the owner or an authorized user, right? Lock the individual's motor vehicle. Okay. If an individual is guilty, if the individual is guilty of a misdemeanor punishable by imprisonment for not more than 93 days or a fine of not more than $500 or both. If the individual violates, as we talked about before, subsection 1 and 2, by failing to store or leave a firearm in the required manner, and as a result of the violation, both of the following occur. A, the minor obtains the firearm. B, the minor does either of the following: possess or exhibits the firearm in a public place, possess or exhibits the firearm in the presence of another person in a careless, reckless, or threatening manner. If an individual violates subsection 1 or 2 by failing to store and leave a firearm in the required manner, and as a result of the violation, a minor obtains the firearm, discharges it, and inflicts injury upon the minor or any other individual, the individual is guilty of a felony punishable by imprisonment for not more than 5 years, or a fine is not more than $5,000, or both. If an individual violates subsection 1 or 2 by failing to store or leave a firearm in the required manner, and as a result of the violation, a minor obtains the firearm, discharges it, and inflicts serious impairment of a body function upon the minor or any individual, the individual is guilty of a felony punishable by not more than 10 years or a fine of not more than $7,500. So as we see here, we're starting to get some appreciable fines and some appreciable time. 7, let's see. This section does not apply under any of these following circumstances. So here's a list of things under which all the prescribed punishment for providing access of a firearm to a minor. This is a lengthy list, so bear with me, because it probably are a lot of different questions that you probably have in your mind, right? This section does not apply under any of the following circumstances. Let's see. A minor who does all of the following, okay? 1, obtains a firearm with the permission of the minor's parent or guardian. Or 2, uses or possesses the firearm while the minor is under the supervision of a minor's parent, guardian, or any individual who is 18 years of age or older and who is currently authorized by the person's parent or guardian. Okay, so go back here, let's see. Under 3, uses or possesses the firearm under the following. These, of course, where it's not an issue. A, the minor's employment. You have a minor and he needs to have access to a firearm, right? B, ranching or farming. C, target practice or instruction in the safe use of a firearm. Let's see. A minor who obtains a firearm with the permission of a minor's parent or guardian and uses or possesses the firearm for the purposes of hunting if the minor is in compliance with all other applicable hunting laws. A minor who obtains a firearm through a minor's unlawful entry of any premises or motor vehicle where the firearm has been stored. A minor who obtains a firearm while lawfully acting in self-defense or defense of another. Let's see. The Department of Health and Human Services shall do both of the following. in consultation with the Department of Attorney General, inform the public of penalties for failing to store the firearm in the manner acquired under this section. So yeah, in a nutshell, this whole situation with kids and guns has been addressed by the legislature. And this is the legislature's response, is to come up with a lot of penalties, both financial and both incarceration. Response or excuse? Well, see, my personal opinion is that I believe that there is a way to solve the adolescent child coming into contact with a firearm that doesn't result in such draconian measures. As I've been discussing this with a lot of people, both in person and online, you know, I actually, believe it or not, there are some firearms advocates and gun owners who are like, good, they're irresponsible. You know, punish them, throw the book at them, fine the hell out of them, incarcerate them. I think still that there's a better way.
Classes.
The better way, yes. The better way is education. The better way is training. A child as young as 12, and in some cases under 12, can, as the statute made reference to, can obtain a hunting license and be a licensed hunter in the state of Michigan under the auspices and supervision of a licensed hunter. There is no reason why we cannot take a more proactive approach by teaching children about guns. First, when you talk about teaching children about guns, as soon as they start that era of life where they're walking and talking, you know, start having those conversations. When they're really young, one program I like to mention to a lot of people is the NRA's Eddie Eagle program. Under NRA's Eddie Eagle program, it says it very quickly and succinctly. Tells children to stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell a responsible adult. One thing that will also be of benefit if you do this, well, let me ask a question. Are we still in an era or day or time in which we allow, say, our children or our grandchildren or any minors under our control, do we allow them to have sleepovers? Is that something that we still do?
Thank God it's over.
Like let them spend the night over someone's house? If you do that, I mean, obviously as a responsible parent or guardian, you're going to know something about the person whose house you're going to let your kid go over, right? You should, right? You know, or as best as you can, or at least do your due diligence. But there could be an opportunity if this child was staying over in someone's house who had not had conversations with their kids about guns. You would have to be placing a lot of blind faith and trust in that other adult, in that other location, in that other residence, as to whether they're going to be responsible with their firearms. By and large, a lot of people who are irresponsible with firearms are either people who, I mean, to be point blank, are people who have a problem with obeying the law. That's a nice way of saying it. People who don't like obeying the law, or people who are irresponsible. However, with our children, I mean, it is ultimately our greatest responsibility to keep them safe and to teach them and to train them. With respect to firearms itself and with small children, you know, there's nothing wrong with educating your kids about guns. And if you take a proactive approach with educating children, particularly whether they're your own children or whether they're your grandchildren, you know, teaching them about a gun, teaching them about its constituent parts, teaching them firearm safety, actually on an age-appropriate basis, actually take them to the gun range and teach them how to shoot. Some ranges based on their protocols or internal rules that they have. They may not allow children under a certain age to shoot, but once they reach a certain age, then yeah, they could do that at a range such as this. Or you could actually hunt, or excuse me, not hunt, but actually do target practice in a outdoor range. Some of you, and you know, I don't like making any assumptions, some of you might actually live in an area that's zoned for you to actually shoot, actually on your property. Some of you may not be. Depending on who you are and where you live, I mean, you may have that benefit. I know a couple of people in my social circle who actually have that, that great opportunity to be able to shoot legally on their own property. They effectively have a gun range like in the backyard. But yeah, I believe the better way to address the whole kids and guns thing is, I think one of you said earlier, we actually used to teach this stuff in the school systems years ago. But the people, you know,
some of the stuff like ROTC still, I don't know about now, but they taught people, the young people.
They'd rather teach kids to drag now.
well, I don't want to go down that path.
That's more important.
The path that I'm going down is there is a history and a culture in which we actually taught kids about gun safety in the educational school system. You know.
Lincoln Park, he has a gun range at the school.
Okay.
And some of the states probably out west, like Wyoming or whatever, probably still do.
Right.
Hillsdale College has a gun range.
And like I said, in some other states, they probably do things differently. We're in this state, so obviously we're going to have to operate under the auspices of the law that exists here. I believe that there have been some legislators. As a matter of fact, there's a proposed law a bill was introduced here in Michigan in which we teach kids about guns and firearm safeties in the school. Based on the political occupation of our state government, do not expect that legislation to have any traction whatsoever. It's one of those.
Going outside the window.
It's one of those, considering the circumstances, it's a symbolic gesture. But I don't look for anything to become of that unless we have some changes up in Lansing. Okay?
The USCCA has a youth program similar to the Eddie Eagle, where their training is in stages, and it's as low as 3 to 5, then 6 to 9, 10 to 13, and then like 14 to 18.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's better if you're proactive. You start early, you teach them. You start with Eddie Eagle or this other program that you're talking about. Stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell a responsible adult. Guard who has access to your children. Teach your kids, heaven forbid, that if they go to school and somehow some other kid brings a gun to school, you know, to make sure that you tell someone. You know, a gun is nothing to play with. And I think education is the better and the more effective way to go. The other people on the other side of the issue, they don't have any prescriptions. They don't have any solutions. All they're talking about is punishment. They're just going to sit back and wait for something bad to happen. And I think that's such a tragedy. I think it's a lost opportunity. Someone who, based on basically their carelessness, their negligence, or lawlessness, depending on how you want to look at it, through their own actions, someone who is very near and dear to them has been seriously injured and or killed, and while they're in their bereavement, now you're going to charge them and send them to prison. I mean, insult to injury. Personally, I can't imagine how you could punish someone more than them suffering the loss of a child or the loss of a grandchild. I don't know how you're going to actually do that. You might give them the time. You might actually fine them and financially penalize them. But I don't think there's anything that you could do that could hurt them more. But I believe education is the best policy, and hopefully one day we keep hope alive, and we are committed as true gun owners and true advocates of the Second Amendment that we continue to do our part. We continue to inform other people of what we're up against. Essentially, we're still in the negotiating phase. Well, what do you mean negotiating phase? There are some people who are tired of talking to gun people, and they're just waiting for the next war to start, quite bluntly. I haven't yet given up on the process. I still believe that there's a political solution to this, and that's going to be incumbent on pro-gun people being elected to our state legislature. And I'm committed to doing that. I'm committed to do talks like this that I did today. I'm committed to doing it in other places as much as I can. And if there's someone out there who's interested in having me come out to their community, hopefully someone's watching this broadcast or watching this video, have them contact me and let's put together a plan and let's talk. Let's make it happen. Before I conclude, are there any other questions or feedback or something that someone wants to share?
We
Yes.
do realize all this is about control.
We know that.
We know that. Okay. Sometimes that you don't hear it enough.
True gun people know that.
Yeah, we know that. Anybody else?
You made my day, by the way.
You made my day by coming. You know what? And for that, let me reciprocate what you just shared. He said, I made his day by putting on this event. Let me trust and believe. You all made my day by actually being here, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Some of you, I've talked to a lot in the past and have not seen in a while. Some things got in the way, like the pandemic and other stuff, life. But let me tell you, I am truly happy that each and every one of you came out. Leave positive feedback, let people know what we talked about here, share it. If there's other groups out there that are interested in hosting an event of this sort, please have them reach out to me and contact me. I have the least private phone number on planet Earth. When I first became a trainer, I said I wasn't going to be like many other people who were operating at that time. And I'm not, being, negative. They're running a business and they put the name of their business and they might have an email address. I said, no, I'm going to put my name literally on the activity, right? Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit, legally armed in Detroit. My phone number is, right? And that's blazoned everywhere. Watch, 313-733-7404. Again, thank you all for participating, and I appreciate you all, and thank you.
I was wondering if you were ever going to start doing something